Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this The Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And just to make it clear how ridiculous the timeline we're in is, this Labour government has not even been in power for 6 months, and they've already effectively had to do a soft reboot of their government, which they weirdly titled Plan for Change. And just to show you how little this actually means, the name of their manifesto was Change, so why are you barely 6 months into your government and then already having to soft reboot your own government, which all that's really included is having to sack the Transport Secretary because she was caught for doing fraud like 14 years ago when she was part of a union, and she's been replaced with someone else. But apart from that, what is this soft reboot? This is all a PR stunt because they are hitting the ground in the polls. They are just in free fall. You know, there was a poll that came out yesterday where Reform were ahead of Labour. Your government, especially in Britain, should not be third most popular in any poll this so soon after an election. It's kind of blown my mind how quickly they've become so unpopular. I wasn't expecting Reform to go ahead of Labour, probably not till 2028. I didn't expect it this early before we even hit 2025. I was a bit off-put by my prediction that they'd only be in government for 3 years, but I can honestly see them splitting, because this is the most unpopular government ever, and there's only so much power that the unions have these days, and Labour are effectively just the parliament arm of the unions. Anyway, I'm not going through the speech because I heard it's boring from Mr. Farage, so instead we're just going to go into the nitty-gritty detail of this because why not? So our missions: growing the economy, an NHS fit for the future, safer streets, opportunity for all, and making Britain a clean energy superpower, are part of a decade of national renewal built on the foundations of a stable economy, secure border, and national security. If you have any idea what any of that means, I would love to know. But even from the very first paragraph of their idea for change, it's confusing me, and it was confusing everyone else who was supposed to look in detail at this. Stephen Swinford, who is the political editor of The Times, basically said it doesn't make any sense. What does Starmer's plan for government look like? Again, we're asking this question 5 months into their government. It's complicated. There's 3 foundations, 5 missions, and 6 milestones. Most of them interlink. I've tried to put them all down on paper. It's far from definitive, but gives you an idea of where we are. Which, as you can see, secure borders basically is not connected to anything else. Economic stability is connected to everything. Economic growth is connected to everything. And then there's just arrows everywhere else. You know, this is the type of thing I would expect to see with Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia standing in front of it trying to explain it all. And from what I understand, that is basically what Keir Starmer did. Anyway, this had so little impact that people unironically remember Nigel Farage's joke on Question Time better than this.
So I sat and watched and listened to Keir Starmer's speech, and I was very pleased with myself. I managed to stay awake right until the very end.
Anyway, let's go into detail of all this. Our milestones for change can only be delivered on the foundations of a stable economy, secure borders, and national security. In an increasingly unstable and volatile world, these foundations are vital to ensure the United Kingdom remains resilient and responsive in the face of potential future shocks, be that conflicts overseas, threats on our shores, global economic downturns, or humanitarian crisis. I can't be bothered reading any more of that. I'm already yawning here. But the thing I really want to go through here is that, okay, they're promising economic stability, better borders, and better national security. Well, let's compare these details with what was already in their manifesto. So economic stability requires concerted action across 4 areas. First, we will deliver macroeconomic stability by boosting UK's resilience to shocks and supporting the Independent Monetary Policy Committee as it acts to return inflation to the 2% target sustainably. I would like to remind people that Labour got in, inflation was at about 1.8%, I think, and it went up to 2.3%, so already that milestone is screwed. Needless to say, this was already in the manifesto. We will bring down cost of energy, reduce food prices, blah 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 blah. Skip to the end of this paragraph. Mortgage rates will be as low as possible, strong independent Bank of England, continue to target the stable inflation of 2%. So this great reset, has not changed anything yet. So next comes the borders. They were acting to restore order to the asylum system, clear the backlog, ensure that the rules are properly respected and enforced by increasing returns. Only by doing this and working upstream to smash the gangs, we will reduce overall small boat crossings. So they've established the Border Security Command, which as far as I can tell in the news isn't doing an awful lot yet. And they have also increased removals, which as far as I can tell is at about the rate that the Tories were increasing removals anyway. So I'm not going to give them any particular medals for that, but thank you for not slowing it down, I guess. Anyway, I don't need to check the manifesto for that. They literally say, we will continue to deliver on the commitments set out in the manifesto. So I'm not even going to check the manifesto, because I know the manifesto had all this. So again, this Great Reset, from your foundations, they're all the same. What has changed here? Why have you done this? Anyway, their final foundation is national security. Threats are growing from China and Russia and all that. Climate change is mentioned as well. Rapid technological acceleration, yeah. Oh, and apparently there's more of a willingness of our enemies to act against our country. So they want to make the country safer, more secure, and increase resilience against these interconnected threats. Working with our international partners, we will act to prevent them. Fine. We will work tirelessly to enhance the UK's security, maintaining the transatlantic alliance, our unshakable commitment to NATO, cooperation with the EU, continuing the steadfast support for Ukraine. Fine. They want to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence in the spring and sustain our nuclear deterrent. Okay. Restore Britain's global leadership on prevention and resolution of conflict. Fine. Uphold rules-based international system. Good luck with that. As well as the shift to secure energy through clean power and tackling illegal migration. What? That's just a weird... You have all of these things saying we want to be a more global Britain, and then all of a sudden you want to be secure in your energy in Britain, not rely on others, basically, through clean power and tackling illegal migration. How does that help secure energy? What? I suppose they've got the Oxford comma there, so I guess that's a different part of the list. It sounded odd in my head. Anyway, once again, all this stuff, the nuclear deterrent, being an alliance with NATO, and the 2.5% of GDP on defence, again, all in the manifesto. So from these strong foundations, it's what you've promised anyway. What are you telling us that is different? Or do you just want to reiterate that this is your plan? Anyway, next up, they want to kickstart the economy, but they decided to wait 5 months for this. So their targets are to raise real household disposable income per person. Well, mine's gone down. And GDP per capita by the end of the Parliament. Okay, I'll take that. We also believe... I know, Jack, GDP per capita is bad, but still, it's fine. We will also believe that growth must be felt by everyone, everywhere, so we track GDP per head at both the regional and national level to drive prosperity across the United Kingdom. This is the problem with GDP. What that ends up doing is justifying their further public spending, whether it's useful or not, so that's where a problem's going to come in. We know that the main route to higher living standards is through good productive jobs, stable employment and thriving business environment, and we believe that growth must be felt in every nation and region. Okay, then why you keep... This is supposed to be a great reset that's supposed to put faith back into Labour, and they say all this, and then they'll keep a budget that basically every business has said, yeah, we don't like it. In fact, this is what Angela Rayner said when she was asked which businesses support you.
Which are the companies that have welcomed your employment rights?
Well, like I say, I've spoke to many companies. We've had many roundtables.
Get me a list of those companies, and then we can call them and say, do you welcome Angela Rayner's proposals?
Well, there's been many of the companies that we've worked with.
Yeah, again, we want a good business environment. Which businesses think that you're making a good business environment? Well, we know loads of companies. Can you name them? Well, as I say, we know loads of companies. It goes on and on and on. Anyway, next up comes a couple of long-winded bullet points. Deliver growth by working in partnership with business. Yeah, right. Because they have a 10-year industrial strategy, don't you know? Well, the industries really don't seem to like your particular budget here. Apparently, the government is creating the right environment for business investment, having already established the National Wealth Fund to catalyse over £70 billion of private investment, which I need to remind everyone, as it's said in their manifesto, an awful lot of that money just goes straight to things that are going to see absolutely no return on investment, including carbon capture storage. How the hell do you make money off that? A whole load of clean energy, which again, they still need to be propped up by subsidies. So when you make a national wealth fund over in Norway or something like that, they basically put all that money into the safest bets that you could possibly put it in. It's all in these massive multinational companies like Apple, Amazon, these things that are going to guarantee a return on investment. Because what's the point in putting it on these risky ventures? Well, there isn't any, but Labour don't understand that. They're effectively putting all their money on black when 36 red's already come up. I don't know if 36 is red in roulette, but, you know, you get the point. Ensure every nation and region release its full potential, working on a devolved government plan, partnering with mayors to develop local growth plans, invest in our great cities and regions to drive productivity. Again, this is just an excuse for them to keep pushing up the public spending, which I love how they're trying to do that despite all these Labour councils kept going bankrupt. And it's happening again now. It's just going to happen on a national level. Drive innovation, investment, and adopt the technology to seize the opportunity of a future economy from AI to net zero. Oh, God. I always reference it, but listening to Dominic Cummings' interviews, he goes through how effectively Starmer has already shot himself in the foot with AI by effectively accidentally regulating it. I can't remember the exact details of it, but basically we are run by people who don't understand the world they're in, and they are effectively trying to run a very 20th century Keynesian model in a 21st century country that has been stagnated through a century of Keynesianism, bar one 10-year blip with Thatcher. Anyway, they want to ensure that the UK capitalises on the excellence in science and innovation. To promote innovation and harness the full potential of the UK's science base, they are protecting the record funding for research and development. Okay. AI Opportunities Action Plan will set out how we capture the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution with artificial intelligence is delivering. For those that don't know, the fourth industrial revolution is just a revolution in data capture, effectively, in data analysis. Effectively, loads of things are being automated now, and now it's more of a how do we capture all the data to understand exactly why things go wrong when they do and how to improve it. Effectively, you're trying to get, that extra 5 to 10% efficiency in your automated production lines. Anyway, basically absolutely nothing of value in that paragraph, so we'll move on. Help people get jobs, stay in work, progress their careers with good employment opportunities across the country. Cool. Oh, they're doing it through the newly established Skills England and Industrial Strategy Council. Okay. They want to support the lowest paid workers with job security and improve working conditions through the Plan to Make Work Pay, where you've upped to minimum wage and already people are losing their jobs, so well done there. The government will help more people to seize the opportunity of employment, helping them overcome the challenges of ill health-related inactivity and other barriers to work through the action set out in Great Britain Working White Paper. You get the point. By the way, yes, again, this was all in the manifesto. So effectively all this is reiterating their plan. It's really annoying me now. And I've not even mentioned that I'm reading all this off an official government website. What that effectively means is that some poor intern had to write this absolute nonsense for basically just me to read and summarise for you, the faithful viewer. Anyway, the next section they go on about how difficult it is for younger people, and from personal experience, it feels like it's harder than my parents, but I can't really compare it properly. Anyway, they mention house prices are absolutely astronomical, and they blame it on house building falling. No mention of immigration here, though. I just want to point that out. And then they start to go on about the planning system, and honestly, I do agree with these last three paragraphs. Britain lacks other key infrastructure that we should be able to rely on, such as transport and energy or gigafactories and the data centres needed for industries in the future. Yes, 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 and yes. Maybe not transport. It is slower and more costly to build economic infrastructure in England than other major countries like France and Italy. No new reservoirs have been built since 1992. Yep, that's because everyone keeps blocking them. The time it takes to secure planning permission for major economic infrastructure projects has almost doubled in the last decade to more than 4 years, plus it costs an absolute bomb. Our growth mission will change this fact, fast-tracking infrastructure delivery and home building and enabling businesses to invest. You don't even need to do that, just get rid of an awful lot of the pointless red tape. I should really dedicate a video to it, but I'll touch upon it now. There was a story with HS2 where they needed to build like a 2-mile long tunnel or something like that because I think it's Nature or Natural England, I can't remember. They found that there is a small chance that it could disturb bats in some forest it was going through. If you actually go into detail of what they found that building the tunnel is probably going to have a negligible effect on what it's going to do to the bats, and the bats were largely unaffected anyway. but they still need to spend over 100 million on this tunnel and all of the planning applications and things like that just to get HS2 done. It's absolutely mental, and obviously something that is only getting in the way of any sort of productivity, because all that ends up happening is you end up paying solicitors and barristers millions of pounds, and the rest of the country has to suffer for it. And it's not just in infrastructure projects where that happens. This happens with people's own personal home. You know, people have had anecdotes where they found that a badger has dug under their home, got into the foundations, and there's a risk that the whole home could collapse, killing the badgers. So when they try and say, can we get rid of the badgers and fix the house, they're basically told no, because that's going to intrude on the badgers. And it's like, but the badgers are probably going to die anyway if they carry on. But this is how ridiculous the law is in this country. It's why we can't grow. But again, back to the point, was all this in the manifesto? Yes. Again, nothing different has really been done in this announcement so far, and we've already gone through a third of it. And the more you go through, the more it's just a reiteration of the manifesto. Oh, their growth mission, build 1.5 million houses. Yeah, they've been going on about that for years. Boosting new homes must deliver for aspiring owners and renters and provide secure for blah 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 blah. Yeah. We will do this by delivering the infrastructure the country needs, not simply through investment, but by reforming planning rules and fast-tracking 150 planning decisions on major infrastructure by the end of this Parliament. Fine. Again, in the manifesto. Well, I don't think that number specifically was in the manifesto, but they did say they were looking at reforming the planning rules, and then they, build the 1.5 million new homes again. Anyway, I think you get the idea with this section. We'll move on. It's the NHS next. Our mission is to build an NHS fit for the future, and it starts with tackling waiting lists. We will make progress towards returning the NHS performance standards and improve access to services. We want to see fewer lives being lost to the biggest killers, including cancer, cardiovascular disease, and a stroke, and suicide. This means Hang on, hold on. We want to see less deaths from suicide, yet you are putting through the assisted dying bill. Are you crazy? This means diagnosing and treating patients earlier. Yeah, people deserve to live in a fairer Britain where everyone lives well for longer. Health, society and functioning. Yeah, you get the idea. So they want to improve the NHS. Who would have thunk? They're going to do that by transforming how elective care is delivered, improving productivity and the way in which patients receive care, including more direct and timely diagnostic test referrals and results. Increasing the availability of testing in communities and neighbourhoods. The capital investment provided in the autumn budget will fund new surgical hubs and diagnostic scanners to build capacity. Probably not the worst idea in the world. Transform patients' experience of care by embracing technology. Care will be centred around patients' lives and choices as opposed to being inflexible and outdated. We will transform the NHS app, giving users the information they need to navigate and take control over their care. It is pretty nuts how bad it is. Anytime I've known someone to need something from the NHS, it, for some reason, always has to be posted. I don't know why. They also still use fax machines pretty regularly. Honestly, the worst part of the UK by far is the fact that we clearly have governments that want to focus on the public sector, yes, including the Tories, while continuing to strangle the private sector, and it's why we've been basically stagnant for a century. Transform the model of care to make it more sustainable. There will be an increased focus on prevention through patients' care journey, blah, blah, blah. But again, all stuff that was in the manifesto, all stuff that, again, is just signalling to people, look, we're doing things that we think you want us to do. When you got to bear in mind at this point, these have been their three first milestones, the three things they want to focus on, right? None of them have had anything to do with immigration. There's been small platitudes of, oh, we'll get the immigration system under control, but they won't go into detail of how. Yet when it comes to the NHS, they're happy to point all this out. When it comes to house building and infrastructure projects, they'll do all that. Immigration, though, that's kind of sidelined. Do the Labour Party just think that people are joking when they say they want less immigration? I don't know. Next up, the Safer Streets mission aims to reduce serious harm and increase public confidence in policing and the criminal justice system. Thank you to Tiv Keir, very cool. Integral to the Safer Streets mission is our ambition to halve knife crime and halve violence against women and girls within a decade. I always find this really funny. Why do you only want to half it? When you say eradicate it, people understand that it doesn't mean you're going to get every single case of violence against women and girls and knife crime taken away. However, if you manage to reduce it by half, that is pretty much on the way to eradicating it. It just sounds weird that you don't want to eradicate it, you just want to half it. It makes it sound like you're okay. You're okay with violence against women and girls as long as it's halved. We are already taking determined action to overhaul the policing response to domestic abuse and introducing stronger measures to tackle stalking and spiking, both of which, by the way, are already illegal. Starmer has said that he's going to make spiking illegal. It's literally already illegal. On knife crime, they are banning lethal weapons and working to ensure dangerous blades do not end up in the wrong hands. Everyone needs a kitchen knife. However, we know that reliable and effective local policing is the bedrock of safer streets. So they are delivering the neighbourhood policing guarantee, putting 13,000 additional police officers, PCSOs and special constables into neighbourhood policing roles. This will ensure that the police are visible in every community, deterring and preventing crime as well as responding to emergencies. Fine, more bobbies on the streets is absolutely fine. And I don't think this stuff was necessarily in the manifesto. I know they wanted more police on the streets, I think that was said, but not the specific number again. However, this stuff, it's fine. But again, it's stuff they've already done. So again, this whole reset, this whole plan for change seems to either be reiterating their manifesto or just announcing things they've already announced. Like these bullet points, police back on the beat, yeah, we've just gone through that. Community-led policing, just gone through that. Clear performance standards and professional excellence. Oh, this is a new one. We will establish a new police and crime performance unit in the Home Office. Finally, something new and that I can't find in the manifesto, which will use high-quality data to spot trends, drive up performance standards, ending the current inconsistency across 43 forces areas. This new unit will agree a single performance framework for policing, including minimum standards on neighbourhood policing, providing an important source for accountability for communities. Fine. It's a new police data centre. Fine. A new neighbourhood policing career pathway. New training for officers and standards for professional excellence will ensure neighbourhood policing is developed as a specialist policing capability. I'm shocked that it wasn't already in existence. But hey, there you go. Crackdown on antisocial behaviour. That was in the manifesto. Safer town centres. Obviously, you're going to promise that. But there you go, 2/3 of the way through their 6 targets, and we finally got to something that I hadn't seen in the manifesto before. Anyway, they now have 4 key areas to break down barriers. So they want to set up every child for the best start to life. This means delivering accessible integrated maternity, baby and family support services through the first 1,001 days of life. What a weird number. And high quality early education and childcare to set up every child for success. Have every child achieve and thrive at school, unless you want to put them through private school, through excellent teaching and high standards. This will include focus on disadvantaged children who, again, have had to be taken out of private special education schools because of VAT. Impact will be measured through attainment in the end of secondary school. Okay. Build skills for opportunity and growth so that every young person can follow the pathway that is right for them, blah, blah, blah. Underpin all of those to build family security, ensuring every child has a safe, loving home. All this stuff that makes you feel very nice, but again, as mentioned, a lot of this isn't going to be achievable by some people now because they force them out of private schools, a lot of which specialise in special educational needs. So how are they going to achieve all this? Well, they're going to roll out government-funded childcare support to improve access. Pretty sure Liz Truss was trying to push something like that. Delivering the expansion of 30 funded hours and supporting 3,000 new and expanded school-based nurseries, increasing the availability of high-quality childcare places where they are needed most. Oh, okay. Work in partnership with the sector, reforming training and support for the workforce to drive up standards. Only by listening to the expertise and experiences of those on the ground can we deliver this together. Okay, fine. Strengthening and join up family services. This includes continuing to invest and build up family hubs and Start for Life programs to support early child health, parenting and home learning programs, and strengthening health visiting services for all families, and improved early identification of special educational needs and disabilities. Oh well. I suppose these are all things that sound good, but you can tell as we go through this, these promises get more and more vague. What does any of that mean in detail? I don't really know, other than they're just going to throw money at things that already exist. Anyway, next up it's the net zero stuff, and the only thing I find interesting here is that they're not saying decarbonise the electricity grid by 2030 anymore. They're now wanting it at 95%. You give it another 6 months, it'll probably drop to 80%. It's something that's just not going to happen. How do I know? Because let's look at their bullet points for how they're going to do this. Work in partnership with businesses and the sector to provide long-term certainty with catalytic public investment. Effectively, they're going to throw an absolutely load of money at GB Energy and National Wealth Fund, which again, they are both just a kind of pincer movement to make sure that they can build a whole bunch of wind turbines and hydrogen port. Are they called green ports or hydrogen ports? I can't remember. It was all in their manifesto anyway. Again, this is just reiterating what's in their manifesto. Power up infrastructure across the country. They want cheaper electricity. Then why are you using wind? Hoi, hoi, hoi. We need new pylons, wind farms and infrastructure. This is why we have lifted the ban on onshore wind, which is actually quite popular. I'm fine with that. And we will reform and speed up our planning system to deliver the investment we need for clean power. Are you going to do that for nuclear as well, I hope? Harness cutting-edge technology as we build out clean power. The UK is home to some world-leading green tech companies and researchers because they keep getting subsidies, pioneering the way for a clean future. Again, this is all happening while my energy bill went up again this month, so this is going great. Our recent... And as well, I went through this. When... Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, when he said, we've had this independent report, which, by the way, he owns the company that made the report, so it wasn't independent, but anyway, leaving that aside for now. When they showed the statistics of, this is what going ahead with these clean energy plans means versus doing nothing, it's actually, on average, better for the consumer to do nothing than it is going down this net zero route. It was shown. The only way it's better is if you get worst case scenario, which they basically said was, like if Russia invades somewhere else, which is very unlikely to happen. And again, only tends to cause a shock for a few months. But anyway, this is the route they want to go down, so expect higher bills at the end of it. Our recent funding commitment of $21.7 billion for carbon capture cements Britain as one of the most advanced carbon capture markets globally and paves the way for innovation in the supply chain. What the hell is a carbon capture market? What, do we import other people's carbon and they pay for us to put it underground? Is that really what people are doing? What's the incentives for that? Random EU rules where they get carbon tokens and effectively they get fined if they have too many? It's nuts. With an industry target for at least 50% of the supply chain to be UK-based, there will be significant opportunities to export UK technology abroad. I mean, this is how crazy the Labour government is. How are we going to improve productivity here? Well, you see, we move carbon dioxide from American companies underground, and that's productive. It's just unbelievable. Ensure the public enjoy the full benefit of homegrown clean power as the UK accelerates to net zero. You get the point. This is all just nuts. Nothing about nuclear, at least in these bullet points. They do mention that they are looking at nuclear further up, but clearly their priorities are build a load of pylons, build a load of wind farms, and we should be golden. I'm not joking when I say this. I have had people tell me, in fact we've had it ourselves, that effectively there have been pamphlets going out saying, how to prepare for if there's a power cut. These energy companies are going around telling people, by the way, we might be losing power every now and then. And I'm basically not joking when I say this. I don't think I've experienced a power cut, personally, probably in about 20 years. And I'm 28. I live in a world where I did not experience power cuts. My parents would always tell me in the 70s how they'd have the 3-day week and how they'd play Monopoly by candlelight, and it was really normal, so they'd always be prepared for it. And don't get me wrong, I'm prepared too. But it is alien to an awful lot of people to have to prepare for a power cut. And there are pamphlets going out quite normally around Britain now, just saying, by the way, you might need to prepare for if power goes out. And that's modern Britain, and here the Labour government are trying to reboot their own public relations, effectively by reiterating things we already knew. It kind of blows my mind that this was their strategy, I'll be honest with you. Like, this is a thing that won't be talked about in a week. People will forget this happened, and people that remember will effectively say, my god, this is the most useless thing in the world, don't waste money on trying to remake your image if remaking your image is just, here's our manifesto again. But this is the thing I just find amazing on this. I don't know who is advising Starmer on any of this, or Labour on any of this, but they must just have their head up their backsides. Upon what planet is making a speech to reiterate everything you were saying during the election in your manifesto, and barely having anything to actually show for your first 5 months in government seem like a good idea? what have you done so far? Well, here's some of the good things we've done. We've announced a load of things that we're planning to do in the future. Try and remember that rather than the fact that we've jailed people for edgy Facebook posts, released a hell of a bunch of prisoners who are saying that they're thanking me personally for releasing them. And please try and remember that we've deported 10,000 people while 20,000 people have crossed the English Channel since we've been here. It's all stuff that's just not going to work. I just kind of can't believe that this was the plan they went down, but I thought it was worth going through it. It turns out I literally could have made this a 5-second video of saying this is all just stuff that they've already announced. There's nothing really new here. So with that, before I bore you any further, I think I'll leave it there. Tomorrow it's Laughing at the Guardian. It should be quite a chill one. Do come along to that. It will be lovely. Monday it is the Antiquity stream. Tuesday it's Tosh Talks. That reminds me, I need to put out the poll. And you too can vote in that poll if you join the Worcester Club. Link in the description. It's just a Discord server and a YouTube channel where I do 2 streams a week. So you may as well come over to that if you enjoy my stuff. But also, do subscribe to the channel, do become a member, do give super chats and super thanks, they're all massively helpful to the channel. And of course with that, that is everything I had for you for today. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.